Okay, good evening, good afternoon, where you are. Welcome to the session today, the PMP review. See, we still have more people joining, but we are going to start. Just want to start promptly because I know we have a lot to cover. Our session today is on building a team and just leadership around the team and how we remove impediments and how we build a successful team. So our instructor today is James Katumba. You might have seen him before. He led us in one of the sessions earlier last month, and he's here again. So I'm going to pass it over to him. Feel free to post on the chat where you're from, where you're coming from, and so that we can interact. If you have any questions, please also post on the chat as well. Thank you. James, over to you.
Thank you so much, Nelson, for this wonderful opportunity to connect with the people. My name is James Katumba. Right now I'm based in Uganda and I teach project management, and I'm happy to be having the conversation with you in terms of passing or getting your PMP done. So I will share my screen, but we shall have a quick conversation or a pulse check in terms of how do you build a supportive team. But permit me to first start asking or just what are some of the best practices when you are supporting a team to perform? What are some of the best practices, or what are some of the things you are doing in your context to support the team to perform effectively on a project? What do you do? So I'm happy to look at the chat. What are some of the things that are very important to lead to team effectiveness or team performance on the project? What are some of the things that you do to ensure that the team performs well in the environment where you have been placed or where you are leading? So look at the chart to see any best practices of how you lead teams effectively, but also you support team performance. So kindly drop it on the chat, then I'll be able to review. Why? Because today we want to have that kind of conversation. All right. Monondo says motivate them. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate your contribution as the trailblazer. Divine says open communication, be as open as possible. You want to ensure that there is information flowing, but also you have defined in the team charter the things that are very clear for everybody to know. Jason says that set clear expectation for each team member. Gaga says mentor or provide mentorship spaces. Catherine says create environments of transparency. That's very, very, very important for us to be able to have that conversation. Richard says 360 feedback is very important. Dan Rose, I don't know if you're able to speak. I suspect that Mathebula says rewards all incentives. Thank you so much. Ground rules, absolutely very essential. Provide training. It's one of the things that become very important for us to have conversation about. Okay, let's see. Okay. Great. So once again, you are welcome. It's evident that I'm engaging people. Listen to them and discuss for buy-in. Thank you so much. Diara, is your microphone activated to share?
Yes, James, sorry to interrupt. Maybe this is a question for Nelson. I don't seem to have access to the chat. It says chat is only available during the meeting, but I'm obviously on the meeting. Do you have a suggestion?
Yeah, I'll sort that out now.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for that feedback. Greatly appreciate. When we are talking about supporting team performance, it is very imperative to remember how you formed the team. It is possible that after the decomposition of the project, you were able to form the team. Now, when you are forming the team, the slide is not moving. So I don't want anybody posting the slide is not moving because we are still setting the pace. When you form the team, one of the things, among other things which are important, is the team charter. The team charter is going to enable us to understand what are the agreeable things that we need to be able to do on a particular project. But also critical to understand, we want to support the team to understand the environment they are in. In your material, you will be able to catch what we call Bruce Tuckman team development. I will not talk about it today, but I would want to encourage you to read about it. Yeah, I talk about that teams go through 5 stages: forming, norming, storming, performing, and adjourning. When the team is new, chances are high that they are trying to understand their way around the project. And as such, there's going to be a lot of communication in terms of expectation. And I like the fact that you mentioned it somewhere. There's going to be a lot of helping people understand what is the way of working on this particular project. In storming, conflict as a reason, we are going to do a lot of facilitation of conflict management. We are supporting the team to understand why this is happening. And as such, there's going to be a lot of managerial support from you as a project lead to ensure that everybody is executing. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to submit to you that today I want to focus more towards the end of execution. We are midway the project. What are some of the things that are important? But also, as we talk about team, remember, you have done a SWOT, strength of my team, what are the areas of growth, which opportunities are available, and which threats are available. Because if we are talking about supporting a team to grow, it becomes very imperative that we have done what we call a skills inventory, because the consolidation of the skill of every member supports you to know the assets that you have in each team. And therefore, you need to know the consolidation of competences. You want to have an appreciation of which gaps do we need on our team. Maybe we want to support them to appreciate change management, or we want to appreciate them to understand the approach that we are using. So permit me now to start my slides that with that background, ladies and gentlemen. When we are talking about support team performance, we would want to as well have a conversation in terms of leadership. Have we envisioned the team? Is every member of the team understanding what is expected of them? If we have a member who is managing the artifact stakeholder register, do they fully understand why that is important? Because if we do not keep updating the stakeholder register, it is going to become absolutely difficult for us to know if we are managing stakeholders very well. If we have a team member who is responsible for managing or looking out for the risk register, we would want to ensure. So envisioning becomes very important. Then aligning the people to the vision becomes very key. And then somebody mentioned motivate the team members. Maybe the deeper question would be, how does motivation look like? Because motivation as well varies depending on industries. There are teams where motivation could mean a team building activity outside the country. There are environments where motivation could mean celebrating people at the end of the year, giving them a 13th check. So we want to be able to understand, what does motivation look like? Now, If I'm to bridge what I'm talking about to the certification is going to require that you align your industry experience to the principles of project management. Project management has a very strong bias towards servant leadership. Project management certification has a strong bias towards the principles and the mindset of a project manager. And as such, it becomes absolutely important that as you approach how to engage teams, you have the mindset of a project manager, but also you have the principles of project management. As I mentioned earlier, you want to understand what are the strengths of my team, because you cannot talk about performance in absence of appreciating the strength. How do you do that? You may do that through the on and on or one-on-one conversation. You could do that in your team meetings where you could even send a survey, but you want to be able to understand who do we have and what kind of strength do they have. At the end of the day, as a project lead, I want to know the consolidated strength that I have in my team, because that speaks the muscle of my team. When I understand the team muscle, I know what weight I can be able to drop on their shoulders. The areas of growth are going to inform the individual development plan. The goal of you as a leader who is stewarding a team of 11 people is to journey with them to grow. Beyond them managing the register, you build their capacity, you empower them, and that's why understanding where they want to go becomes absolutely important. So understanding the areas of growth, we want to link them to the particular training. If you discover somebody is struggling with appreciating human resource, you want to align them with a training that relies to closing the gap. But also, as you think about training, remember, you're going to think about the nature of the environment. If you're in a bank, FMG, startup environment is busy. So want to think about the learning approach. Maybe you have an internal learning management system. You enroll them on a course, or they are going to go away for a 2 days training, and then when they come back, they roll back. But all these are going to fall into play the moment we do appreciate what areas of growth they need to do. And then the other aspect would be to understand, where do you see yourself? Most of the time when people are exposed to a job interview, sometimes that question pops up. And as such, it becomes important for us to know that exactly what does the interviewer want to hear from me? What are my aspirations? The output of the process of sorting a team member is that we can be able to consolidate the competences that we need so that we can design a training that is very relevant for our people or for our team. Remember, because it's a project, you need to set apart resources. Resources could mean money. Resources could also mean personnel who are going to facilitate the training. But remember, for each of the empowerment session, you want to ensure you design objectives so you can comfortably be able to measure if you have achieved your outcomes. That is very important. Now, when we come into the PMP mindset, especially PMP certification beyond the daily practice, what do you want to remember here? You want to remember that as you think about assessing team members, you want to understand which environment are we talking about. If we are into predictive, because you have an appreciation of predictive, which is basically traditional, all waterfall, all plant-based, to use lots of formal assessments. You want to ensure that you do formal assessments, performance or you want to send a link, you want to conduct assessment. However, when we go into agile or adaptive, we are going to self-organize teams and find a way on how they can do learning moments to ensure that they as well growing. So that's why you discover even the certification that you're going to get, you're going to have opportunity for you to continuously learn on the portal. And once you learn on the portal, you acquire knowledge. Right now, when you go to the portal of PMI.org, there are lots of courses on AI, lots of courses in other specific areas. Why? Because the goal is to ensure if a team member wants to grow in a particular competency, they can comfortably be able to access the resource. Now, the enhancement with the courses on the portal is because you get rewarded what we call professional development units. Why? Because your certification requires that you are accumulating 60 PDUs at the end of 3 years. And as such, learning on the portal or any other portals which have a collabo with PMI, you're going to get point. So if you're just joining and you're wondering, James, what are we talking about? We are talking about assessing team members, specifically in the context of performance. But we don't assess and leave them there. We assess with the goal of building capacity. We assess with the goal of closing any gap that is available. We are assessing with the goal of designing a training that is going to help us to ensure that every team member that you do have on the project understands what is expected of them, which is going to lead to effective or high performance of your team, ladies and gentlemen, on the call. I would want to hear from you. What are some of the performance assessment tools you use? How do you do performance assessments? What are some of the tools you use for performance assessments? What are some of the tools that you use for performance assessments in your environment? Performance assessment tools. Or how do you how is performance evaluated in your environment? Performance assessment tools in your environment. What are some of the performance assessment tools that you use? Tools, templates, methodologies. I just want to have a feel of how performance assessment happens in the environment where you are coming from. Could, could you kindly go to the chat and share? We'll talk about performance assessment. How does it look like in your environment? So again, I'll go to the chat, able to read a few things. How do you assess performance? Thank you so much. Wavi says a balanced scorecard. Beautiful strategic planning. Fantastic. Observation. Thank you so much. Group PTY Limited says job profiles. Thank you so much. Somebody has also mentioned interviews. There we go again. Score card based on job profile. Fantastic. Fantastic. I'm still seeing if we have any other. Balance scorecards. There are people who are going to look at performance assessment in the lens of key performance indicators. They are going to look at AVM management to find out if your project is performing. You've talked about the balance scorecard. There are environments which are going to use the Gantt chart to be able to see how is the performance of the project. Therefore, that determines you. Thank you so much. Setting smart goals specifically. Smart, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Good project dashboards. Maybe you're using MS projects, and as such, some of the issues which become important is we want to be able to review the dashboard to find out what exactly is happening. performance appraisal systems, the 360-degree feedback. That's another one. You want as well some people to do that in their environment, among others. The end goal is for us to ensure that there has to be a place of assessment of performance. Somebody has mentioned test, that is Mr. John. Caesar says one-on-one based on specific performance versus specification of section. Good. Runyoro says develop key result areas and review skills matrix. Great. What's the best practice that you want on top of what you've mentioned? The more definitive you are at goal setting, it becomes easier when you are assessing performance. Why? Because then it will move from being a subjective conversation to a scientific conversation. What was planned? What was done? What was planned? What was done? What was planned? What was done? What that does, it keeps us on focusing on the issue. So that is important. Number two, someone has mentioned the one-on-one performance conversations. Agree together cadence for the performance engagements. Maybe quarterly. I've seen somebody talking about SMART goals that every 3 months we are going to review. And then agree the best way of setting up, maybe a virtual if you're outside, if you are beyond different geographical areas, or you may agree to meet in person, because we have employees who feel make time for me. And of course, that would mean if you're in the same geography, you're going to go to the boardroom of your organization, and then you can be able to, they can share their screen and they give you a detailed breakdown of the things that they have done in a particular season. Ladies and gentlemen, would you permit me to share additionally what's on your screen? You want to compare performance to the goals that you have already mentioned. We want to ensure that we reinforce roles and responsibilities. This is what your job looks like. This is what you have done. From what you have done, it is possible that you could have misunderstanding what is expected of you. So I would recommend that for the next season, you want to have appreciation of what is expected of you, so that everything you do is in alignment with what you are supposed to do, ladies and gentlemen. Some of the things, when you are giving that feedback, what happens is you are building the confidence of the team member. How you give feedback is absolutely very, very important. So it will be very helpful. It would be very helpful that you give feedback that is going to build the confidence of the person. Then as well, if there are any issues that you want to be able to address, you want to ensure that as well you handle them. But most importantly, make sure that you create and monitor individual training plans if they are on a plan of development, and let them know what you want to be able to do with them, or what they want to work on in the next season of appraising their performance. One of the things that is very important as we build team is we want to ensure that we are offering effective appraisal. And that means we are supporting, they are struggling, we build their capacity. If they need project resources, we want to be able to provide for them. Why? Because as a servant leader, your role is to ensure that you are creating an enabling environment where every member can effectively execute. That means that we provide them with all the resources that they need. If there is a member who is struggling in a particular area, we want to know, is it an issue of competency? Is it an issue of skill? Or it's an issue of not understanding the way of working? The role of the project manager then is to ensure that we identify that so we can comfortably be able to close the gap and ensure that everybody is effectively executing their role, ladies and gentlemen. So one of the things that become important, I wanted to go to the chat and explain, just drop, when you talk about emotional intelligence, how do you understand it in a sentence, in your own way? I know all of us on this call have had emotional intelligence, emotional intelligence. How would you define it in the simplest way possible to maybe a 5-year-old? When you talk about or a 7-year-old, emotional intelligence, how would you explain it to a 7-year-old? Emotional intelligence. Could you go to the chat? Emotional intelligence. What does that mean to you? Mhm. I see, Jose, you have raised your hand. I don't know if your microphone. Okay, as your microphone is being activated, my ability to be able to be tolerated others. 1V, your capacity to regulate your emotions and appreciate others' emotions in the context in which you operate. Great. Let's see. Zanel says to be able. Uh-oh. Zanel, to be able to overcome any situation without causing any harm. Wow, that's a unique one. Regan says self-awareness. Village says how we react to situation. Runyararo says reading the room and regulate your responses accordingly. Divine says ability to control oneself without affecting workmates. Beautiful. Saka says ability to manage your emotions and understanding the emotions of others. Okay, Rose says understand how you feel and how your feeling affects others. Also to understand what others are feeling. Great contribution. Comfort says my ability to know what makes me angry and set my boundaries. Emmanuel Tukey says ability to regulate self in good and bad state. And then Amadou says knowing your own feelings, managing your feelings, and understanding others. Great contribution. Thank you, sir. I think another Regan comes and says self-regulation. Habib says handle interpersonal relationships. Growth Pty Limited says ability to identify critical behaviors from individuals and be able to deal with them without causing harm. Kara says ability to put yourself in shoes of others. Sandy, having the right mindset to handling situation. Jose, capacity to persuade and control someone with your emotion. Empathy, thank you, Regan. Paolo, being aware of your feelings. Stefan, being calm before reacting to disturbing situation and knowing how to accommodate your emotion and accommodate others. Dr. Rejoice, knowing and being aware of yourself in relation to your environment. Dorcas, being able to understand yourself and your emotions. And finally, MD and CEO, knowing your feeling in relation to others. So why is it important that as a project manager, You are emotionally aware. Why is it important? Why is it critical? Why is it so critical that you grow in the area of emotional intelligence as a project manager? Why is it critical that you grow in the area of emotional intelligence as a project manager? Some of the reasons you have given, but I also be able to read other reasons that you give as after my presentation. Understanding ourselves and working on our weaknesses to assist others. In other words, emotional intelligence means you can notice how you feel. Maybe you feel happy, you feel sad, you feel angry, you feel excited. Emotional intelligence means you can name the feelings. Emotional intelligence means you can control your feelings. It means you can notice how other people feel and are kind to them. That would be the simplest way of explaining it. So then, because you know that, it becomes critical that you develop a plan to better yourself. Do a self-awareness assessment to understand how you manage your emotions. You could do a personal 360 feedback, ask people around you, they'll give you feedback. But also there are online tools which can help you to assess your regulation of emotions. Then number two, you equally want to work at organizational awareness in terms of the environment you're working in, empathy you have mentioned, but the key area that you want as well to give attention in project leadership, the ability for you to handle aspects within relationship management. Because of the difference in our personality, it is very possible that you want to work on particular areas. Most of you who have done a personality assessment, each personality comes with a strength, but also it comes with areas of growth. And as such, it is possible that you are task oriented. You may not be sensitive to the needs of other people. If you want results, you want results. You do not want to hear story. Why? Because that is the default of your personality. How do I become sensitive of the other personas on the team that I'm leading? Because understanding my personality gives me an opportunity to know how to serve people of different personalities. So you want to sharpen the saw by working on particular competencies so that you can become a seasoned leader as you navigate with your team. How can you listen to your team when they are saying what they are not saying? How do you listen to a person is on the voice, on the phone call, and you notice they are hesitant? Because sometimes if you're not sensitive to that as a leader, it is very possible that you're going to push your agenda and sacrifice the opinions of the people. So you want to be able to understand that. The aspect of developing others has come back again. As a leader, you are a custodian of talent. You want to ask yourself retrospectively, how am I adding value to my team? I am squeezing results of them. How do I add value to them? Do we create learning hours at the start of the week? Do I assign them courses on Coursera or Pasipo, all the learning management system we have in your environment? Do I give each one a book? Because also that is dependent on who you have, and that's why you want to understand your team members. There is one you'll give a book and they will read because they love to read physical books. There is one you'll assign a course on Pasipo and they will enjoy the course because they love that kind of self-paced learning. There are others who prefer that you sponsor fee because they love to interact with a tutor. They love learning where it is facilitator led. Now, those are things that you want to be able to appreciate. But also you want to be very sensitive on how the change management dynamics happen within the team environment. Some team members are quite not flexible in terms of change. They are really comfortable with the way things have been. So as a project manager, how do you want to manage in that space? That is equally important. How about conflict management? You want to have an appreciation of how can I support the teams to self-organize, because in agile teams self-organize, identify the cause of the problem and address it effectively very well. So there is quite a bit of the emotional intelligence, but the encouragement is because you are practicing these things, it comes better and better. Major Dr. Major Abeka Musa said, because you cannot do it alone. Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was a contribution of emotional intelligence. The other aspect which becomes absolutely important that I wanted to just highlight would be in terms of just give me a moment, permit me to stop sharing, and then I just give me one moment to ensure that I'm aligned to some of the areas that I want to be able to handle. There we go. There we go. Fantastic. There we go. Training, coaching, and mentorship. What is the difference between the three? Training, coaching, and mentorship. What is the difference between the three? I want to see us contrast them. Training, coaching, and mentorship. So you could go to chat and say, training is this, mentorship is this, coaching is this. Training, mentorship, and coaching. 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 Let's see. Let's see. Ah, these are different levels in the personal development. When we say you're going for training, what does that look like? When we say coaching, so the chat is very lonely. Maybe people are typing. I'll give you a moment. I'll give you a moment. Training, mentorship, and coaching. Training is the first level of capacity development and follows capacity. Great. No problem. No problem. Remember, okay, the chat has begun. Training is structured and transfer oriented. Training is explaining knowledge through through work set like doing mentorship provides a long-term career guidance. Training is structured. There we go. There we go. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to submit to you that we took off the first part of our learning, as please keep them coming. We took off the first part of our learning to know how do we build team. And we said, number one, you want to be able to assess performance. We equally talked about appraising. And within appraising, you are also trying to, within assessment, you are trying to assess skills, you are assessing knowledge, you are assessing interest in relation to project objectives. And that's why it's important. And the end goal of the assessment, you want to recognize the skill gaps early so that you can strategize a training or external resources. Now, when we bring in resources, then we need to be able to define what project resources do we need in terms of requirements. Do we need human to close the gap? Is it more about material or it is financial resources? Therefore, the work breakdown structure will be very handy to help us in terms of project resource requirements because that becomes very important as a result of the assessment that we have done. So we want to ensure that there is a balance between the requirements but also the needs of the project. The other aspect which becomes important that I did mention that in terms of building a team, you want to continuously assess and refresh. That's why we're talking about coaching or mentorship. Why? Because they become very helpful. Regularly evaluate the team's effectiveness. How do you do that? It could be performance appraisal, it could be team retrospectives, it could be doing skills gap analysis. But what you want to be able to do is to ensure that we are doing what we call continuous improvement, okay? Continuous improvement in the context of team skill set. Or you could even set up a culture of learning, motivate people who have put in more hours in learning, create courses and motivate a department which has done more courses, organize in-house training workshops, arrange mentorship spaces where a seasoned project manager is put with a novice, so that knowledge they can be transferred. Why is this important? It's because you want to align the available skill set with evolving project demands, ladies and gentlemen. And then the other detail why we are where we are right now is knowledge transfer. If somebody is leaving the organization, how do we transfer that knowledge has been retained? And that's why mentorship comes into place. Therefore, you want to ensure that you pay special attention to power dynamics within the team. Number two, you want to ensure that you use resource calendars to ensure availability of specific project team members as you schedule learning. Now, three, you want to get familiar with the performance techniques that you're going to use, coaching, mentorship, and then training, but also what reward system is available. And number four, you want to ensure that you create a psychologically safe environment where teams feel comfortable, teammates feel comfortable to learn within each other. Remember, the whole goal of building a high performance team is to address basically two or three things. People become mastery at what they're doing. Number two, you want to ensure that there is what we call a leadership readiness program, that people are growing. And then number three, you want to ensure that people become comfortable with the artifacts that they're using on a particular project. And that leads us into training, coaching, and speaking. What do we desire to achieve? We want to transfer knowledge. We want to create an environment where team members learn from each other. We want to create a space for everyone, including stakeholders and team members, as part of the project work, but also space for continuous improvement, knowledge sharing, but most importantly, product delivery and transition planning. Critical difference between the three, ladies and gentlemen. Training, you learn skills for use in the present. It could be a group training, it could be individual training. Coaching, you're talking about learn how to apply the new skill and improve existing skill. And then mentorship, where somebody defined it, it's a relationship where you get a seasoned leader and you attach them to a novice or another person who is on a different level of understanding, and they go on a journey of appreciation of growth. Why is that important? Is because we want to ensure that every member of the team can comfortably be able to execute effectively their work, but also efficiently. So you want to discover the current skill set and competency in terms of where you want them to be. And then you can comfortably be able to tailor a unique development plan that will help us to achieve that. Then also coach on the customers' business needs, customers' business, the culture, the desired environment. Coaching for different project team, they are going to use an external person. Why? Because they only come in to ensure that work is happening very well. But also as you support the teams to remember the whole of today, we are focusing so much on to building a high performance team. So in terms of building a high performance team, ladies and gentlemen, you want to remove impediments, you want to remove obstacles, you want to remove barriers, all blockers. So the starting place would be also to understand what are the factors that prevent the project from progressing. I want to indulge you on the chat. What are some of the factors that can prevent the project from progressing? What are some of the factors? What are some of the factors that can prevent the project from progressing? Good. All right, as you respond to that, I'll pick up what you had shared. Skills for comma, Megan testing other skill, fantastic. Oh, good. Rose had said training, coaching, and mentorship are distinct professional development approaches. Training is structured for instruction, yes, for specific skills. Coaching is performance focused, absolutely. Inquiry based and short term guidance. Good, and mentorship, relationship, fantastic. Jose says training, acquired certified knowledge, coaching, instruction on how to do something, mentorship, career, fantastic. Stephen M. Training focuses on impacting specific skills and knowledge. Mentorship focuses on long-term development and career growth, and coaching focuses on unlocking an individual's potential and improving their performance. Fantastic. Mr. Sunday says training, teaching, coaching is impacting, and mentorship is guidance. Wow. Edward, training can be short term, while coaching can take a longer term on job. Edward, you know that coaching is more time boxed than training, but I think also context is dependent. Emmanuel 2K said mentorship is understanding career direction, coaching is developing an existing skill to polish it, and training is after identification. Fantastic. British mentorship relationship. Ronald, mentorship is knowledge. Great contributions. I love your submissions, ladies and gentlemen. I truly appreciate Good. Viti says lack of skills can prevent the progress of the project. You are absolutely right. Rose as well confirmed. Duncan. Sam says constraints. Project constraints could be the obstacles or impediments. Runyaro says conflict. Yeah. Mathebura says lack of skilled personnel. Good one. Thank you. Truly appreciate. Arthur says disagreement among team members. Vitish comes back and says unclear requirements. Jean says unclear project requirements. Some says teams and schedules and cost. Sure thing. Uh, Sanel Siwe says unclear objectives. Very true. Dan says lack of resources. Jean says skill deficiency. Active communication. Kara comes with capital letters. Change in government policies can prevent a project from continuing. Thank you so much, Kara. Really appreciate your contribution. Jean says inability to manage globally dispersed team. That's a good one. And then Mathebula says lack of involvement of key stakeholders. You guys know everything. Why did Nelson call me here? So at the end of the day, it becomes essential that we identify the impediments, the obstacles. Why? Because if they are not identified early, so that we can design ways of dealing with them, it becomes very difficult. We cannot talk about equipment of people without knowing what is before us. Now, one of the things that becomes very essential for us in managing impediments in the context of building teams would be we want to have regular communications. As you do recall, people have talked about unclear expectations. So regular communication is important. In some environment, conducting daily stand-up meetings become very key. In another environment, we're doing retrospectives. All these are helping us to ensure that these feedback loops, you may want also to do team health assessments. You want to do diagnostic. You want to diagnose, is the team healthy? Because this is the thing. If we are talking about blockers, then it becomes very imperative that we understand how to deal with them. How did we get there? Because we are trying to understand what is the issue that we want to be addressed in our particular training. So some of the other issues that become very essential, because now you're talking about issues of that could block the project. You have mentioned some of those things. Urgency is important. We want to find out how soon is this blocker going to prevent the task from starting or completing. You also want to find out what is the impact of this issue, conflict, what is the impact of the issue. You also want to find out what is the level of complexity and how can we be able to deal with it, because these are very crucial things, ladies and gentlemen. If I'm designing a training, nowadays we are designing trainings for organizations in crucial conversations. We are designing trainings for coaching at the place of work. We are designing trainings in leadership awareness program. And as such, most of this topic, for me, I deliver it from a conversational way, not so much in terms of material, because that is what is happening in the industry. So when we do a training assessment need of your team, then we can customize the training. If it is more about that the middle level managers cannot handle crucial conversations, then maybe we need to customize a crucial conversation training. If the gap is in terms of coaching, if the gap is in terms of holding people accountable, then we shall do coaching in the place of work. But also, it could also be personality clash. A member is not the perfect team of the organization. So it becomes very important that we have that kind of appreciation so that we customize the training that helps us to address a particular situation, ladies and gentlemen. So I've talked about the gap analysis. It is helping you to have an appreciation of what do we want to address. In the medical language, we could say, what are we diagnosing? Because you don't want to give medicine for the wrong diagnosis. So it becomes very important that we understand what we are dealing with. Yeah, and then also, once we are done with that, we can proceed. Of course, if you're talking about training, I have to market the certifications, but beyond the certification, you want to understand what is the issue. Soft skills, communication, interpersonal intelligence, uh, conflict management, problem solving. Is it technical skills or ability to work with other people? Let me see on the chat because I saw a ticker of the hand. When the environment is not conducive, very true. Thank you so much, doctor. If there is a communication gap, that's another issue. Admin, I don't hear. Kindly enable my audio. Oh dear, maybe it's internet. I suspect other people are hearing. All right. I know that Nelson is going to be able to handle that very, very well. Good.
The audio
Yes,
is
please.
activated now.
Did she have a question?
Yeah, I was just saying that the audio for Marcus is activated. You can unmute and speak now. Marcus?
Okay. All right. So I will stop to share and I share again. I think Marcus is still struggling with the internet. By the time Marcus, you're ready, we shall be able to hear your question or your comment. But also, if you could use the chat, that could also be very handy. I see your hand has come back again, Marcus.
Sorry, it's in error. It's in error. Sorry.
All right, please go ahead.
No, I said it's in error. I didn't mean to raise my hand.
Ah, okay. All right. Great. At least we have heard you. At least you have heard your voice. Good. Right. So treat knowledge as an asset. I'll tell
James, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Hey, James? Looks like James has an issue with the internet. I'm just trying to get him back in. Just give me a few moments. You should be able to join back.
Nelson confirm if I'm good now.
Yes. Yes, now you're okay.
Apologies, friends. That really happens. Wow. Great. So you will as well alert me if it happens again, but it really happens. Good. So I was mentioning that treat knowledge as an asset that is very important. And then as you organize any equipping of any team, you want to weigh the cost benefit analysis. Why is that important? It's because you want to ensure that there is value but also return on investment. And as a steward of people, help others and yourself to improve on your skill set. The moment the people you're leading are better, that means that the level and the quality of deliverable is going to be different. That is something that is very important, ladies and gentlemen. Increase the team's ability to increase quality output, and that goes back to equipping them, and then build relationships and trust to ensure that the team that you have is executing effectively well. Within your material, you read about types of elements of training, but that shouldn't be something that I want to spend about, but that is something very important. If you've been tracking my conversation, we should be at the tail end of basically how do you ensure that every member of your team is effective? You want to determine what is it that from doing their work. Once you have defined it, then you want to find out how do we prioritize that. That's why we said identified what could be hindering the progress. How do we address it? Why? Because some of the hindrances could be at the organizational level. That means you have to collaborate with senior managers. Others could be at a resource level. That means you have to escalate or create resources where appropriate. Others could be more about cross-team dependencies, conflict across sections. That means you have to facilitate cooperation. And others, it may be skill gap, and that's why I have talked about the importance of the training. So at the end of the day, you have to keep reassessing and reassessing and reassessing to ensure that you are achieving what you want to set out to do. Is coaching going to help me remove this particular issue? Is training going to help me to remove this particular issue? Is mentorship going to be the one to help me to address this particular issue? Remember, as you keep reassessing, you want to schedule repetitive evaluation. We have deployed a training. Can we do level 3 and level 4 to find out are people integrating? You want to use team discussion techniques. If there's a particular problem, can we put people together and idea what do? It shows it allows innovativeness to happen. And then also, as you continuously assess, you want to find out what feedback is coming through and how do we integrate that feedback in already existing structures to ensure that every issue that is remaining has been addressed, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're going to go the formal ways, especially within predictive environment, absolutely that can work. But what happens if you're in hybrid? What does that look like? That's why I gave context of what happens within traditional project management, but also context of what happened in adaptive project management approach. So for like every training, you want to make sure that you measure the training outcomes. These are the things that we set out to do. Let us ensure that we measure, and that's why we do a post-training. That's why we want to also observe if skills have improved. We want also to find out if we've got the badges, and then finally, we can be able to share lessons learned in terms of that. Why? Because it's important. Remember, why reassessment is important. You want to ensure that you are supporting people to grow. You want to help them to know that the training, all the equipping, all the knowledge sharing platform that you use has successfully achieved its purpose. If you ask me, James, what have we talked about for the last 1 hour? Because I think we began at 5 minutes after. We've been trying to speak into how do we ensure that team members and stakeholders are effectively trained. And that's where we began by looking at what competences require training. Then we also talked about how do we ensure that we pick the needs of the training that we do need, and then provide the budget, and then we can measure the training outcomes as you see it on the screen. We then took off a bit of some time to look at how do we build a strong team. We talked about appraise stakeholders, very essential. We want to ensure that we appraise stakeholders. We want to set resources in place. Then we talk about how knowledge transfer and maintenance, which speaks to training. And then the last segment has been about barriers for progressing, impediments. Identify them, prioritize them, and ensure that you are providing opportunities where every member is comfortable in terms of executing. Can you come again on training model? Did not get the name of the training model. Which the training model, I don't know if I get your question. When we are talking about the training, when we're talking about the training, what we are trying to say is you cannot do a training without doing an assessment. And therefore, it becomes important that we first assess the needs of the training. Once we have assessed the needs of the training, it allows us to design the training. It allows us to design the training. Once we design the training, we deliver that you dedicated that you will not dig deep, that you will not dig deep into. No, I meant the context of. Okay, now I get what you're talking about. Permit me to just go. Okay, you talked about delivery models. Now, when we talk about instructor-led, that is practically what we are literally doing. You sit before a tutor and we learn project management. And as such, PMP requires that you do 35 contact hours. A virtual classroom as well could look at this as well. Sometimes the instructor-led could be recorded, but 35 virtual classroom could mean like what we are doing. And then the self-paced is what happens in the context of your learning management systems. Learning management that happens is a course is designed and put on your internal learning management system, and then you assign a particular course. Once you're done, you submit your certificate to your HRR. The way the typical setting also would be how you see courses on Udemy, courses on Coursera. Document reviews, you're looking at resources. For example, when you go to PMI portal, we have got articles that you're going to be able to review. But the goal is for you to be able to understand them and then also be able to get knowledge. Interactive simulations, we create rooms. Interactive simulations, we create environments where we really focus on having making it more learner-centered, and then the on-job training, which is going to focus more in terms of what you see on-job training like mentorship or job shadowing. So kindly confirm on the chat Runyararo, if we are comfortable in terms of the question that you did ask. I'll be happy to know if I've spoken and I've understood what you wanted us to. Oh, fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Great. So I am going to my most favorite part of the class. Every time I do my lesson, the last segment we do questions. So permit me, ladies and gentlemen, to load study hall and pick a few questions that we are going to navigate and then see what that looks like. So I'll be reading a question and then you'll be dropping the answer on the chat. What that does, it's going to help us to appreciate a bit of what we have learned. So just hold on a moment as to the whole lot. Good. So let me pick a topic. Where is teams? Where build and lead teams, empower team member and stakeholder. Let us do build and lead teams. I'm conflicted. Let us first do this and we go the other way. Great. Okay, fantastic. Almost ready, almost ready. Oh, just one moment, one moment, one moment. Build and lead teams. There we go, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, good. So I'll share my screen. I read and I give you a moment to respond. There we go. Question number one. Question number one. In the company cafeteria, a project manager overhears an engaged stakeholder mocking the style of language used in the project manager status report. What should the project manager do? They should meet the stakeholder privately to find out how to make communication more engaging. B. They should ask the company's PRO for tips on how to make written communications more captivating. C. They should send status reports to the stakeholder and use only direct email to communicate with them. D. They should update the project social contract to prohibit respectful communication. When referring to project matters, what is the issue? A project manager overhears an unengaged stakeholder mocking the style of language used in the project manager's report. What should the project manager do? Ladies and gentlemen, please go to the chat and drop in the answer for question number one. Right, let me see how many questions, how many responses. Oh, interesting. The chat is buzzing with a. All right. As you have said, majority vote. There we go. Fantastic. There we go. A leader should assess ways to re-engage unengaged or hostile stakeholders. Direct interviews are the best method to gather input, adapt communication as part of the engagement strategy. Thank you. Let's go to the next question. Ladies and gentlemen, after an organization trained and implemented a new mandatory project management software application for all project staff, the project manager notes that several team members show low levels of commitment. to the new software. What is the cause for this? Fear of the unknown, lack of required skills, lack of clear vision, and too much communication. But what is the issue? We have trained a mandatory software application for all staff. However, the project manager noticed that the several team members are fearing to click. They fear to touch the mouse. What is the cause for this? Too much information, too much communication, lack of vision, word skills, or fear of unknown. Go to the chat and type a response. Let me see how we are buzzing on the for question number 2. Question number 2. Do I see a B and a C? B and a C. B, B, B. C, A. There we go. So you were saying ABC. Lack of required skills. These guys have come back from a training. Project vision. Fear of unknown. A. Fear of unknown. C. A. A. Aha. There we go. This is going to be interesting. Who is saying C minus? Jean, did I say C minus or you've written in French? Pauline says James A. Ladies and gentlemen, Pauline, we shall take Pauline's answer and then we hey, Pauline. Fantastic. Fear of the unknown is often a major reason for low commitment. Managers should investigate the potential for insecurity, determine the cause, and work with the team members to reduce the anxieties created by their negative perceptions. The other answer choices do not necessarily lead to low commitment. Good question, good question, good question. Question number 3. What are the 4 team building leadership styles? Welcome to project management. Runyararo you have your hand raised. I don't know if your microphone is enabled. Let me attempt to see if you have something that you have put on the chat that I have not addressed. Yes, please.
Thank you, James.
You're welcome.
It's a question on the second question that we've just finished.
Please go ahead. I can hear you. I suspect I've missed the last bit of the. Nelson, have you caught the question very well?
Unfortunately, no.
I was saying I've got a question on question number 2.
Yes, please go ahead, please.
Okay. Maybe if you can flash it a bit, then I can ask whilst.
Okay, no problem. I'll flash it. Yes. Yes, there we go.
Yeah, I think I also noticed I'm one of those people see here as an answer. I'm thinking is it not equally a correct answer? Because I'm looking when someone doesn't have a project vision, they don't know why maybe because this training is a step toward achieving that vision to achieving the project goal, isn't it? So if it is not very clear, will that not lead to people having low commitment levels, not necessarily just unknown? Because I didn't quite get why C is wrong. A sounds correct, but why is C wrong?
Okay. Good. Great. Thank you so much. That's a good question. But you realize when you look at the issue in the question is that an organization trained and implemented a new mandatory. So in terms of direction, in terms of vision, it is clear that we have a direction and a vision that we, as a compliance requirement, we have been invited to roll out a mandatory project management software for all people now projects, like the way it happens in some of the government entities. So in terms of clarity, people went for the training in a way that everybody knew that this is the new direction. For example, in Uganda, there's been a memo that people on huge projects do PMP. Now, that means that by the time you enroll as a result of the memo of the government, you know why it is important for you to have the PMP certification. You come out of that training, you know why you went for the training, but still, the issue is we have low commitment of usage or utilization of the software. So that means practically it's not so much about the skill because people are equipped with the skill. In terms of project vision, the direction is clear. That's why you went through the training. Now, the uncertainty would be so much about the unknown because possibly it may be you don't want to make errors with the new system. Possibly you think if you make errors, you're going to be caught in a place where you feel people are going to think you never learned properly or you are inadequate. As such, you do not want to come strong in terms of using the system, yet you trained. I don't know if that is helping you, the one who asked the question. Does that help?
Yes, thanks, James. I'm not sure whether thank you. I put in the chat.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yes, your microphone is still working. Great. Samuel, you have a comment, and then we shall jump back to the next question. Yes, Samuel Sitharo. Yes, Mr. Samuel.
Samuel, your mic has been activated. You can unmute.
Okay, so what I'm asking is, so here it looks like we are basing on the assumption that when the mandatory software was introduced, all the prerequisite steps had been taken. That's why we are saying B may not be correct because normally when it's being launched, the new software, people will then have to be trained, which is a prerequisite step. Is that the assumptions that we're coming from, or that's how we approach it?
Thank you so much. Now, once we are approaching questions, we are going to have the mindset. The mindset for starters and the project management principle, because I suspect at some level within your materials, you may have read about the project management principles, so that they guide the thought process, so that you do not assume outside the scope. Because at the end of the day, the quick mind you have is this process was done in alignment with the proper project management principles. But also, you also want to have the mindset to ensure that you are good. You have the mindset of the project manager to ensure there is alignment, because I'm trying to look at one of the core processes according to the Board of Knowledge: holistic view, value, accountable, integrate sustainability within all project approaches. So if I had a chance, I'll look at a given principle and then I speak into it, because that is the mindset we want to use. We want to ensure that even when we are assuming, as the word you have used, we are within the framework of project management practices. All else then, if somebody goes outside the principles, you go outside the mindsets of a project manager, then that becomes a challenge, because you are likely to be out of the guardrails in terms of implementing projects, but also answering the particular question. Does that help, Mr. Samuel? Mr. Samuel, are we good? Oh, okay, my sound, okay. But okay, so does it make sense then? Drop on the chat. Yes, okay, fantastic. Good. Well, good. We're on question number 3, team. We're on question number 3, team building leadership styles. Permit me to fast track some of the charts that you put. What were people saying? Okay. Oh, we had an A. Was that ABC look correct? All right. People said A. Visionary, affiliative coaching, especially outside team building lifestyles. Good. Question number 4, ladies and gentlemen. An expert resource avoids assignments that include working with a foreign contractor. Hey, how should a project manager resolve the situation? Hey, they should question the expert privately about the reluctance or biases and insist on an inclusive attitude. B, issue a disciplinary warning to the expert and advise their functional manager to send them to diversity training. Wow. C, prevent delays and conflict by hiring a consultant that the expert is going to work with. And number D, reprimand. Now, the agile mindset, specifically servant leadership, you want to look out for extreme causes, outliers, or fire, beat, escalate. You want to be so slow on such. Why? Because you're thinking with the servant leadership mindset. Great. Let's go to the chat and then type in there so that we can be able to see. Let me run to the chat, ladies and gentlemen, and see what people are thinking. There's a delay. Did I miss? Maybe that was earlier when what Ross said. Okay, the chat is buzzing with a question. Huh? Why is our thing going without giving us an answer? Internet in Uganda has gone. Aha. Hey, question the expert privately about their reluctance or biases and insist on inclusive attitude. The project manager should understand the reason or the root cause on why the expert resource is avoiding assignments before doing any disciplinary warning. May I say this? This question brings in the context of escalation. First, identify the cause of the issue before you escalate. Avoid or be careful with extreme outlier responses as a project manager. Question number 5. During the weekly meeting, team members are reviewing the tasks assigned by the project manager. A few team members are complaining that there is not enough information to estimate how long it will take to complete the work. Okay, what is the most likely cause of this issue? Every time you read a question, process. During the week meeting, the team members are reviewing the tasks assigned by the PM. A few team members are complaining that there is not enough information to estimate how long it will take to complete the work. What is the most likely cause of the issue? Project delivery objectives are not clearly defined. The business environment is very dynamic. C, internal competitions between team members. D, roles and responsibilities are not. A few team members are complaining. It's an interesting question. Few members are complaining to estimate. All right. Let's see what's on the chat, but that's a very interesting question. Oh, okay. Buzzing with A. We shall do 2 more and then I hand over to Mr. Nelson. So there we go. If the project objectives are not clearly defined, then the team members may complain about having enough information for estimation. Dynamic business environment and internal competitions between team members can even have impacts on delivery. Roles and responsibilities are cannot clearly defined is incorrect. Good. Question number 6, which is the second last. A project manager is not sure if the team has the critical skills needed to implement the key feature of an upcoming deliverable. In order to mitigate the risk of the sprint failure, what should the project manager do? A project manager is not sure if the team has the critical skills needed to implement a key feature of an upcoming deliverable. In order to mitigate the risk of the sprint failure, what should the project manager do? Ask for the support from the sponsor to replace the low performers with new team members with a specific skill set. B, negotiate with the stakeholders to postpone this key feature to a later release while figuring out a better alternative. C, identify the potential skill gap and propose a strategy to address the gaps with training, mentorship, and coaching. And number D, embrace the risk, accept the sprint failure, and try to motivate the team toward better performance. Ladies and gentlemen, question number 6, which is our second last question. How would you handle saying C for car? Let's see car. No, let's see car. Confirm. There we go. The role of the PM as again a servant leader is to create high-performing teams. Servant leaders place emphasis on developing project team members to their highest potential by focusing on addressing issues and gaps. Good. And our final question, ladies and gentlemen, during the execution phase of a project, a resource manager informed you that one of the experts allocated to your project had to be motivated in order to perform very well. What would be the recommended actions to address this issue?
All right. Thanks, James. I think we have a question before I can go ahead. Duncan?
Hi, good evening,
Good
James
evening.
and Nelson. Yeah, I obviously picked up that there was this thing called Infinity, where it generates questions for you, which I did find quite useful. But pretty soon I ran out of, I don't know, it seems that I ran out of credit, and that I was prompted to upgrade to a monthly subscription to keep having access to it. Is that actually correct, or am I missing something, or do I just have to restart the session again, or how does it work?
I will pick the mind of Nelson. I've been using Infinity, and once you are a member, there is no other upgrades. But maybe Nelson, that is something you want to pick up and find out, because I use Infinity. I've not been given an opportunity for an upgrade. Permit me to find out, or Nelson could find out, and then he will be able to share, because I think he has access to your group. Nelson, do you want to that?
Yes. Yeah, thanks, James. So what you said is correct. Once if you remember, PMI Infinity should be free. All you need to do is just refresh and start again. You should be able to get more questions. But if you've done that and you're still facing the same thing, I'll probably check with the owner, with the internally, with the platform owner internally to just find out if that's the case, and then I'll just post it in the group.
Yeah, so obviously I didn't do, I think the way that it works, it's 175 questions. Is that right? Something like that. And then the idea is that you do the 175. I wasn't doing 175 in one go. I was doing maybe like 40, and then I would leave the browser open, come back the next day, do some more. Maybe that's why. Okay. All right. So if you just go back to the link. Okay, and I've got another question. So those questions, are they sort of as good as the study hall questions? Because to be honest, I found them really easy. Maybe I was just lucky. And I got the impression that the study hall ones might be more difficult.
Yeah, you are right. The ones in Infinity are not as to the level of the ones that are on the PMI study hall. That's why I mostly encourage people to to just go to the PMP, the study hall questions. I mostly encourage that because personally, when I was taking my PMP exam, I used study hall, and it really demoralized me. I almost stopped studying for PMP because the questions were so hard, harder than the PMP exam, and that's for a reason. So this is why I always encourage you to go through study hall and do the mock exams. I did literally everything on study hall, and that boosted my confidence. So I wouldn't compare Infinity and study hall in terms of the difficulty level.
Okay, and then just last question. Once you pay for it, it looks like there's two versions. There's like a basic one and maybe a plus one where you get more questions.
Yes.
Any recommendation? And then is it only available to you for 3 months? Is that correct? From the date that you purchase it, and then after that you have to buy it again, effectively.
Yes. So basically, the way it is, it's a subscription for 3 months, and to be honest, that's all you need to be able to practice. You, in my own opinion, you don't need the full version, which has more questions. Unless you have time, you might end up not doing all of them. I didn't use the full version. I used the other sort of, I don't want to call it basic because it's the same. It's just that it has fewer lesser
less
mock
questions.
Yes, so I used that, and I only did 2 mock exams. I couldn't do all the mock exams that were there and the other exams. So it totally depends on you as a person, on what you can handle. If you would like to take more questions, then just go for the full version. But if you have time, but if you really are confident in where you are and you just want, and if you just want to boost your confidence, then just go for the minimum. It's still the same.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Duncan. All right. I have enabled the microphone. If there's anyone with a question before we close.
Please, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to know. I have bought I paid for PMI study hall, but I didn't get the products. What should I do?
Yeah.
I talked to PMI Infinity. They told me to change the browser. I changed the browser, but still now I didn't get the products.
Okay. Just
Advice,
share with
please.
me. Yeah, share with me your PMI ID on WhatsApp, where you can just you get my number on WhatsApp and just share with me your PMI ID. I'll check and see where the issue is.
Please, can you put yours up in the chats? Or it's already done?
It's if you're part of the group, I'm an admin in the group. You can be able to get my number there.
In which group, please? Sorry for a question. Huh?
I'm going to share the link to the WhatsApp group on the chat.
Okay, good.
Right. Abdurizak.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Good night, everyone. I'm Abdul Sharif from Somalia. Greeting to all of the members. I'm very happy to participate this essential training or brief out. Really, I've gained more experience. For me, I have purchased both study halls, although my schedule was very tight. I did the 2 mocks. I've scored a 71 and a 73, both the essential one. Then after it expired, I have again bought the plus one. I've done the first one. I've got 77. So what encouragement or guidance would you provide to me to go ahead for the exam? Though I have waited recently. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. James, would you like to take on this?
Absolutely. I was responding to somebody on the chat that Nelson, I feel as if, well, in my experience, maybe Nelson will speak. I purchased study hall when I was midway of the 35 contact hours because I didn't want it to expire and I renew. That was one of the caveat for me. So then after purchasing, I designed my reading plan to the study hall so that by the time it expires, I am done. If you have purchased first, that means it has been 6 months and you're doing PMP. In my opinion, I feel that's a longer period of time, but it's understandable there could be other issues. But for me, I would strongly recommend that even as you purchase, come up with a reading plan. And in your mind, you know, for example, right now, Nelson will guide me, but I know by July 1, the certification is changing. That means that practically you have maybe about 4 months. So you want to know in your mind that you want to do the certification before June 30th. Then what does that look like in terms of weekly revisions? So that at the end of the day, you are progressing very well. I like the mark you were mentioning, 70, 80. In my opinion, I feel it is comfortable, but also maybe I would be interested in finding out. That means you have taken about 4 months without doing it, but that is something that maybe it can be off the call. So for me, I would recommend purchase study hall, come up with a reading plan. To be specific, Essential Study Hall has 717 questions. Now, if you are going to use it for 90 days, if you divide that by 90 days, you take off weekends, you comfortably know how many questions I should be able to do on a daily basis. And then I segment 4 hours to do a full-length exam. In my opinion, start with the practice questions, then end with the practice test, so that at the end of the day, you can close the gap. I don't know if that is very helpful. Back to you, moderator.
Yes. Thanks, James. I share the same opinion because when I purchased study hall 1 month before I did my exam. So it's different for everyone. So what I would say is also go with your own pace as well. But study hall does not replace personal reading and experience. So it complements what you have done in class and what your own reading as well. So, but it helps you understand how questions are set, and that's the best way. The same structure is going to be the same structure in the exam as well. Yeah, just wanted to add that.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right, can I go ahead? Good evening.
Good evening. You can go ahead, yes.
Okay, yeah, my name is Voke from Nigeria. Mine is thank you very much for the lectures and the ones I've received so far. I think it's beautiful, and it's helping me to know my lapses and prepare more. So my question is, the earlier schedule for I think 26th of this month, but I moved it because of an activity I have at the project site to next month ending. But I schedule online, and I needed to change it to physical. So I'm in River State, Nigeria. So I don't know if you people can help with a number I could call, so that, because I want to do it, physical, so that especially because of login, because I've written some exams that I find out that the login becomes an issue sometimes. So it's better I'm in a physical venue, so that if I have any issues, it can be resolved. So I don't know if that's possible, if any one of you can help. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so thanks. Okay, so for the scheduling of the exam, it's this is mostly done on Pearson VUE. What I would advise you do is first of all, get to speak to our customer service agents who are on WhatsApp, specifically the WhatsApp option. Go to the WhatsApp option and request to speak to a live agent. Specifically type that on the WhatsApp. Then you will get someone who will be able to assist you in changing from what we've already scheduled to the physical one. Because you have to book online through the Pearson VUE. And unfortunately, I do not have that access, or I'm not able to get to that. Only the customer care team is able to do that. So if you go to the PMI website, go to contact us, and then select the WhatsApp option, request to speak to a live agent, you will be assisted.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. James, there is a question from Megan who is saying, I'm not sure if you can hear me. James?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes,
Yeah,
please.
so there's a question from Megan saying, but I was informed study hall should be used as primary learning source. I purchased 35 PMP e-learning practice exam and study hall. So by the time I completed the other resources, had expired. I'm not sure if I understand this fully.
That's why I was referring it to you, because I felt as if she's saying she purchased the course of 35 PMP contact hours.
Yeah.
She also purchased the practice exam and study hall. Oh, it's possible that she studied after 3 months. That means it expired before she could use it. That's where I wanted your mind, because I think she took long. The moment she purchased the activated study hall, but I think she studied for over 3 months, and so the activation expired.
Yes, that's really likely what happened, because study hall is a subscription, and it's only for 3 months. So if you take longer than 3 months, then it expires.
Megan, kindly confirm if we are speaking into what I wasn't informed. Oh, interesting. So, wow. Nelson, is there anything you can support, or she just has now to activate? She just has to purchase another.
Yeah, no, so I'm not sure who the point of contact was. But if it was directly with PMI, then you want to speak to the customer care team. But if it was someone else outside of PMI, then unfortunately you'll have to resubscribe to Study Hall again.
Right.
Okay. All right. James, yes, you have to pace yourself. So what Study Hall does is once you purchase Study Hall, and you log in, you put in your date for your exam. Um, you put in the date of your exam, and then you should be able to work towards that date as you study. Have a study plan. I cannot insist further on this. I had a study plan. Have a study plan that you're going to use, so that you know exactly what you're going to do each and every day. Even if it's 30 minutes, we have questions there that are 15 minutes, 10 minutes long, 5 minutes long, but at least do something every day. I would say that, and pace yourself in a way that you're able to complete within that time. At times when you take too long, you end up self-destructing, and it differs from one person to the other. Others require 1 month to prepare, others require 6 months, other 2 months, but pace yourself in a way that you're able to not take too long and not take too short, like just enough. I see a hand from Marcus. Go ahead. Okay. All right then. We are 3 minutes out. I'm going to take one last question, Abdirizak.
Hello, sorry, it's
Okay,
Marcus again.
Marcus.
Thank you for giving.
Yes, I was saying, in terms of the study material, which book do you recommend we use to study?
Yeah, so this goes back to what I was saying. Personally, I wouldn't say that I recommend a specific book per se. But there's important documents that you need to ensure that you actually cover, and that's the exam content outline. The exam is going to come out of that exam content outline. The other books that you're seeing other students are recommending, I don't know, there's several resources that are being recommended on the WhatsApp group that people are reading. They are important, but most of them are used as reference material for PMP exam. So even as you use them, just keep in mind that the exam content outline is the source. That is the content where the exam is going to come from. So that's super important. I know there's always misconception that the exam comes from the PM book. That's not correct. The PM book is only used as a reference. One of the references for that matter. There is several other references that are used for the PMP. PM book being one of them. So I would personally say work with what works for you, but ensure that you follow the exam content outline. One of the resources that I must point out is the Agile guide. That is super, super important in my opinion. You should ensure that you've mastered the Agile concepts and you understand them fully, because majority of the questions, and as you have seen what James has been sharing today, mostly hybrid and agile, and a few being the traditional. So you want to ensure that you fully mastered the agile concepts, as well as you followed the exam content outline. Okay. I don't know, James, if you have something to add before we close.
No. I just want to reinforce what you've said. Have a study plan, leverage on study groups. If you're able to, after you have cleared the study hall, share the screen with somebody to just validate you all to. In other words, leverage on study groups. If you have a mentor in your group, they should be able to support you. But otherwise, as long as you're practicing, you're good to go. But follow your pace as well. Yeah. Back to you, Nelson.
All right. Thank you, James. Someone has asked about the exam content outline. I've shared the link on the chat, and I would like to close here for today. Thank you so much, James, for delivering this very insightful session, very engaging. And to all the candidates, thank you so much for attending this session today. We will share the recording for this session and last week's sessions as well tomorrow. We'll post them on the WhatsApp group. Feel free to, yes, Duncan, that's the Agile Practice Guide. Feel free to interact with them, go back and see what we did in the other sessions, and then we will see you on Thursday. Thank you so much for attending. All the best to those taking the exams soon, and we'll see you on Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. See you.
And bye-bye.
Thank you.